Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is a conversation around creating and sustaining clear, healthy boundaries with your coworkers for career women who are looking to have so much more success in the way they set boundaries and sustaining them over the long term. I'm posting this on February 22nd, 2022. And the reason that matters is because it's 222. 222, so six twos. And in my world, a 2-2 is really around being successful. So today is dedicated to your success and setting and sustaining healthy boundaries with your coworkers. Okay, you ready for this? And if you stay all the way to the end, I'm going to talk about a really simple and easy strategy to clear your calendar. So for those of you who are ready to clear your calendar, make sure you stay to the end of this training so you understand and know ways to do that for yourself. So let's talk about setting and sustaining clear boundaries. The biggest thing I see missing for career women is they're actually not clear on what their boundaries are. Perhaps over this last couple of years, you started to notice and change that a little bit. Maybe you have started to shift it. Being at home, working from home, you started to understand, oh no, actually, I do need to set more boundaries on my time because my mental health is suffering. Some time with my family is suffering. Time for myself and being really good in my body, my mind, and my spirit, all of that hasn't been happening. So some of you actually may have gotten clearer on this. And now that you might be going back to the office, and many people are in that phase and they're shifting into the office, is that you're like, how do I set and sustain boundaries again? I have to reestablish boundaries. I don't have time in my home to just go, on a run during my lunch break. The things that you previously did during the last couple of years might be shifting and changing quite a bit. So one of the things for you to start to do first is understand and establish clear boundaries for yourself. What is it that matters to you? Where are your priorities in your life? What matters most above all? And I bet you, for most of you, the answer actually isn't work. And if it isn't work, that there's other things that matter to you in your life, the real important thing is for you to understand and start to establish, how do I have all of those pieces at play during the day and not just have myself in work, overcommitted, constantly overwhelmed with the volume of things that I am doing. So the first thing is to understand what your boundaries are and what are your priorities so you can start to set them. And then the second piece is actually to know what doesn't work for you. This is actually really important. A lot of times you might know what works for you, but you're not clear about what doesn't work for you. Let me give you an example. So many of you are probably in an experience where you get texted about work. And if that is not okay with you to get text messages about work, then it's time to set a boundary around that. Some of you are not okay with doing your email after 6 p.m. and yet you still hop on because you're worried at night that someone emailed you about something urgent. If you know that that's not okay with you, you have to start to enforce that for yourself, to start to work at times that actually make sense for you and not do the things that aren't working for you in terms of where your boundaries are at. So it's helpful for you to also just get clear on what doesn't work for me. If it doesn't work for you to work 8 hours straight with no break, amazing. Now you know. Start to establish that for yourself. What works for you, get clear what your priorities are, and then what doesn't work for you, which leads me to the next step, which is to actually set and sustain your work hours. It's super important to actually understand what they are. I know women who'll say to me, well, I'm always done with work by 4:30 every day. And then do you know what they do? At 9 p.m. at night, they're back on their computers doing their email. If that works for you, fantastic. If that doesn't work for you, do not do it. Do not work overkill, overtime, late at night. If that is not actually something that works for you, you need to start being disciplined with yourself. You need to start saying, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm actually only going to work from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and I'm taking my lunch hour break and I'm doing X, Y, Z for myself. So you have to get really clear on what those hours look like. And then you also have to have the discipline to not do that, to not engage outside of those work hours. And it might look like not checking your work email on your phone or not doing all of those other pieces. So we have to really start to check ourselves on the work times and really contain work to those periods. Okay. And then the next piece is important and something we talk about a lot, but how do you sustain it is the power of saying no. So the reason no matters is not just because we're putting up this firm boundary. If you start to explain why you're saying no, What do people do? They start to poke holes in it. They start to say, yes, I know that you said you can't do it next week, but when I look at your calendar, there's a gap from 9 to 11. Are you sure that you can't slot me in? Has anybody heard that one before? So you need to start to say, no, I'm not available for that. No, thank you. Learning that no is a complete sentence and actually using it in a way that makes sense and using it in a way that really guards your time and protects your priorities. Maybe you need to do 9 to 11 to do a kid thing. That's fine. That's not really anybody else's business if you're still getting all your work done otherwise. How can you start to protect the time that you need for yourself to have really good mental health, for you to be able to work effectively, all of those pieces? Starting to set clear boundaries for yourself by saying, no, that doesn't work for me, is so powerful. And this leads me to the last piece of this, which is clearing your calendar, because this is another tool that you can use for yourself that is super powerful for shifting time on your calendar. So say, for example, you're not a straight no, you're just like, I'm just a not right now. So what you can do instead is use time on your side. So whenever someone emails and says, I need this as soon as possible, that's not a real deadline. So you just reply back with this awesome phrase, when do you need this by? And they might say, I need it right now. And you say, that's not possible. When is a reasonable time that you might need this by? And then they'll say, okay, fine. And they might give you 2 hours or 4 hours or tomorrow or whatever that is. And you get to decide if that works for you. Another way to do it is if they did give you a time frame, say they said, hey, I want this tomorrow by noon, and that doesn't work for you. And you can say, hey, what about by Friday? What about by next Wednesday? And you start to clear in your calendar the ability to have some space for answers and time frames that actually work. Because let me go back to and reiterate again, nobody knows what you have on your plate. Nobody in the world knows what you have on your plate. Not your boss, not your team, not anybody else who works with you. You are the only one who understands all the things that are on your plate, because it also includes family, movement, mental health, a home, whatever it is that's going on in your life. People don't understand the vast complexity of our lives. So it's up to you to really start to understand and say clearly and state clearly what it is that works for you, so that people can start to say, oh, like you just have to start to communicate with other people what it is that's important to you, the time frames that work for you, without having to explain yourself. They don't have to understand. They may not like it. And that doesn't really matter. What's important for you is to start to understand and get clear on what your boundaries are, and to set and sustain them so that you have healthy boundaries with coworkers. And then ultimately you feel better in your mind, your heart, your spirit, to be doing the work and living the life that you want to be leading every single day. All right. So if this resonated with you, hit like, hit subscribe below. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you soon.